Morning, guys. Let's see here. First of all, obviously disappointed with last week game. Want to basically get on to the next thing, but we need to finish. Turnovers hurt us, put us behind the 8 ball a little bit. We need to be able to respond. It's Michigan week this week, so we got to put that behind us and move forward. Have one focus as we move. And we played well down there in the past. They have an outstanding program. I think that when you look at them right now, you look at their defense, it's probably a top 15 defense. Do a great job at what I call running the sled, getting their feet, being disruptive, and getting their feet into people and running people back. So we've got to be able to pass protect and the things of nature. With that, as far as running the football, same type of thing. Going to have to be able to run it some. Can't turn the football over in a rivalry game. I think that's been our thing that we've got to be able to deal with more effectively. On the offensive side of the ball, we've got 4 offensive linemen back. I think they're young at the running back position, experienced at the wide receiver position and quarterback position. They make some plays, create some loose plays with the quarterback. Play well on special teams, well-coached football team. So, got to compete daily, got to move forward here. Rivalry game, I think, is good for college football. It's good for this state. I've said many, many times over the course of time here that got to measure up in this football game. You're greener, you're blue in this state for the most part, and this crosses families and everything else involved with it. So, I'll take some questions. We'll go from there.
Mark, just wondering if there's an update on Matt Dodson. We saw him injured on Saturday, and he's not in the depth chart. Same with Josiah, we saw him not come back, but he is listed, obviously.
Yeah, Josiah, I've always just tried to list people if we think they're going to play, but if they're definitely out, let you know. Dodson tore his Achilles, so that's a season-ending injury, so he'll be out. So, as far as Josiah, we expect him to play.
Mark, over here to your left. I assume you never have a problem getting your team up for the Michigan State game. Is it a special challenge this year with what has gone on the last few weeks for you guys?
I think that when you look at this football game, I think it sort of becomes, you can sort of throw the records out a little bit, pretty much like Coach Harbaugh said yesterday. I think that there's been times when they've been 4-0, we've been 1-3. Yet have been able to find a way to win. So those type of things have happened in the past. Right now, for me, my main consideration is our football team and getting them down to the football game ready. And we come and competed, we'll compete, we'll play hard. We just can't make mistakes to beat ourselves. And I think if you look at our season right now, what's happened and what's transpired is we've beaten ourselves in some respects. Other times we played good football teams, but you're playing a good football team in this case as well. You can't turn it over. And we're in the first 5 games and we had a very productive turnover ratio, and in the last, I guess, 4, it's probably been in the negative situation. That's what's hurt us. We got 500 and whatever yards offense, and that type of thing this past week, and but the turnovers and the quick turnovers, the quick scores. Were the issue.
Mark, over here. That offense you talked about, I know there were turnovers and some missed opportunities at different points of the game, but overall you mentioned the 500 yards, 28 points in the first half. What positives do you take from what you saw, especially considering how you struggled the 3 games previously with points on the board?
I think that we ran the ball effectively. Elijah gets 170 yards net. That's a big positive. Has some big explosive plays. The work he has, almost 100 yards rushing and 250 passing. Had some tipped balls that went the other direction, but had some balls, a couple maybe dropped, and then we had a couple, we had the one with the PI that was a little bit concerning that it was called. But, that's another 50-yard gain taken away. So I think that the thing that you have to look forward, you have to take from a positive perspective in the Illinois game, I think, is that, hey, we were productive, we had opportunities, and we moved the football. The things that happened were from a negative perspective, where either they're making a good play or us, so sort of hitting ourselves in the foot. But I think you draw the positives from it that you can, and you try to fall forward in everything that we're doing.
Mark, over here. I know we talked to you right after the game, but Brian hit in the head there in the fourth quarter. Was he okay? Did you guys have to go through any protocol with him, concussion-wise? I know he played.
No, we looked at him. No, we didn't go through any protocol. We looked at him very quickly. I asked him, and he said he's good, and he motioned that to our trainers as well. So he just went on with it.
After the game at all?
No, nothing.
Mark, you mentioned the offense a little bit. Elijah having, he had the breakout game in his first start, his second career 100-yard game. Did you see anything different with him individually as far as vision or anything, or do you think it was part of combination of him and the offensive line blocking a little bit better?
I think it was the offensive line a little bit, and I think that he had good vision, and he broke some tackles and ran through some tackles. He's a powerful guy. He does about 225. He can run. He's deceptively fast. I think he's faster than he looks on the film sometimes. He's a 4.45 guy.
Mark, in terms of the identity of this program, just where do you rate the Michigan game? How important do you see it?
The Michigan game has always been a game I think that we've pointed towards ever since I've come here. I've said many, many times I didn't create that environment. I'm just trying to empower it or, stay with it. But I knew that if we were going to be successful here, ultimately that we were going to have to win down the road some, and here at home, and we were going to have to measure up in every time we played that football game. And so that's what we put into effect, that we were going to measure up in this football game. So, I've been here 13 years, this is the 13th, so we need to do that again, and it's a constant thing, because you're going to compete against them in everything that we do, whether it's recruits in the state, or everything we're on the field, or on the basketball court, whatever it is, the hockey rink. But it's just the way this is built here. You're going to compete against them in everything across the board. And so that's the way I've tried to approach it.
Mark, you said before the game last week that Noah would be the incoming starter going into next year. He comes out and leads the team in tackles. Just curious what you saw from him, and then I guess how those three linebackers handled that situation.
Yeah, I thought Noah played pretty well for his first time out. He had nine tackles. I think he had a sack, maybe a pass breakup. The one pass breakup, probably prevented an interception, but hey, we'll go with it. I thought he played pretty well. He was confident, and he ran his feet on contact, and he was aggressive. And the one thing that we talked about last week, coming into the football game, is we wanted to take initiative in everything that we were doing, and we wanted to be aggressive in everything we were doing. And I think we did that. I think that we did that with play calling. I think we did that with how we played. I think we did that all the way down to the end in terms of how we played on the goal line. But things caught up with us, and it just didn't happen. Too many technical things overall that would happen, whether it's playing on deep ball or whatever it is, that prevented that from happening. So very disappointed. It's one that I'll carry with me for probably the rest of my life. But that's coaching. It's happened before.
Mark, just back here in the back, a two-parter for you. Do you feel any added pressure going into this game this year with how the season has unfolded at this point? Because this is the latest you guys have played Michigan in some time.
Yeah, it's the latest that I can remember. But no, I don't feel any added pressure. I think that there's always pressure in this game because you're always, as I said earlier, you're always trying to measure up. So I don't feel any added pressure. It's just a big game. It's always been a national TV game pretty much. It's always been a game that's had everybody looking at it, and so it's always been one of those type of situations. So,
The road team has had success the past 5 years. Is there anything special, maybe take us inside that bus ride down, that you guys have been able to maybe harness or focus on that when you get off the bus, you seem ready to play?
I'm not sure on that. I just know that sometimes when you gather everybody around you and you go one place, one focus, maybe you get a little bit more tuned in than it would be when you're at home, when there's some distractions with family coming into town or a little bit of things of that nature. We try and get focused in everything that we're doing, home or away, but maybe there's a little extra on that bus ride. I'm not quite sure, but we want to win them all, home or away. It's disappointing when you lose at home, but point taken.
I know that every year is different. different records go out the window, obviously. But when you think of how much success that you've been able to have in your tenure here against Michigan, how much will you channel that this week, and how much will you maybe make an emphasis to that to your team?
I think what we say is that every season is a new season, it's a new moment, it's a new game. So there's new things coming, but I think that what we can talk about is this is the history of the game, this is what has occurred, this is how we've won before, these are the things that have happened that allowed us to win. So you point towards those things, I think that's natural, but you know, it's a separate deal. And in big games like this, what you do in these games take on a whole different meaning. I mean, you basically can become, you know, Jalen Watts Jackson becomes a household name, and or Blair White or Javon Ringer or these type of things. So when you have these big moments, you play on a large stage, I think you have an opportunity to set yourself apart, you know, in the legacy of Michigan State football. And so, you know, you have to take that attitude going into the football game and try and build on it, build a foundation. But it's a tremendous challenging environment down there. They're a very good football team and well-coached football team, so they're going to play aggressively, so we need to match that. When I say measure up, we need to match their aggression, their intensity, all of that. You know, that's all a part of it.
Mark, I know that obviously pre-game last year there were meetings with Devin Bush. There's been obviously a history of things. I guess when you go into a game like this, particularly on the road, what do you tell your players walking into someone else's house?
Well, first thing you need to tell them is don't walk, run. Okay, so we won't. That's what we'll focus on. And you know, that's in the past in my mind. That's in the past. Those things have taken place. You know, and I said on a radio show this week, you know, if you don't like confrontation, this probably isn't a good game to go to, because it's just the way it is. It's just natural. You know, got guys that have played against each other in high school. You got guys that, you know, that have played already in this football game. So it's just a competitive environment, and the biggest thing that we need to do is have total focus on what we need to do at the right time, and not make mistakes, and play, you know, just play hard, play harder than hard, and so that's what we'll focus on. And as we've gone down there, there's been great sportsmanship, so I look forward, you know, look towards that. I don't look away from that. I look towards that.
Mark, two-parter here, taking you back 10 years to the Larry Caper overtime game. I'm curious what you remember from that day and from that game. And then, with that being the first time since the 60s your program had beaten Michigan back-to-back years, do you see that as sort of an important point in the rivalry to set up this last decade?
Well, what I remember about that is I think we were ahead 20-6, and they rallied back, and all of a sudden it started pouring. And then we went to overtime and we picked a pass, and then Larry had, you know, a touchdown run, you know, broke a couple tackles. And like so many games, you know, that hinge on one play, it's over like that. And all of a sudden, you know, the game's won. But I remember that's the one I pointed to. We were 1-3 going into the football game, and I believe they were 4-0, I think. So, you know, it just gives you an indication. Get yourself ready to play hard. We played hard in that football game. I've gone back. You know, you tend to look at things from the past, and you go back and you look at certain things, especially in the last 4 years here, since Coach Harbaugh's been there. You want to look at different things that they've done, that type of thing. So, but you spend a little bit of time looking in the past too. So, I think it's good to have a little bit of history here, but you've got to focus on the moment.
Mark, when you have a rough season like this, obviously speculation, people talk about the program, where it's headed and where you are headed, if anywhere. Do you think about that? Do you feel the need to say anything to either fans or people about where you are going forward, where this program is going forward?
Well, I got asked there's a question by, I had our freshmen together yesterday, and I always have our freshmen together this week for me to talk with them for a couple minutes, because I want them to understand how important they are in the program on the busiest day of the week of the year, busiest week of the year, that I would take the time to go talk to them. And one of them, and so I said, any questions? And one of them said, Coach, how do you handle the criticism and whatever from all the different people? And I said, hey, you know, when you're the head of the program, you're head of something big, and things don't go as well, that person's going to be criticized. And that's part of it. But what people need to understand out there is that I have as much information as I can to do the job that I'm doing, and I'm going to try and do it with our players in mind. We're going to work hard, we're going to always stay positive, we're going to rise above it. And that's the only thing that I can do. I can continue to rise above it, or I can take another direction and start to go below that. And I'm not going to go in that direction. So I'm going to keep working towards winning and handling our football team, and that's what I do. So I don't really worry about the things I cannot control. I can't control what you say or what you say or what you say. I can only go forward in the best fashion I can. The best fashion I can go forward is by being positive and take a positive direction in everything we're doing and continue to move it ahead.
Just a quick follow-up. You can control your future. Do you contemplate your future going forward during a season like this?
No. I get ready for the next game. I live in the present.
Mark, a couple quick things off the top. Just JD's past his limit for a red shirt. Nick Samak is right on that edge. Do you have any plan of, at this point, of where he's going to be long term? I guess.
Well, you know, they're starting. That would be a pretty good indication that they're playing. I thought JD played very, very well. I thought that Nick Samak played very, very well. Both those guys are true freshmen. We also started 2 freshman wide receivers. You know, had a couple drops or bobbles, but I think they played pretty well as well. They're good players, and they're only going to get better. Hey, to get better, you got to play. But they're talented guys. So we started 4 freshmen this past week out of necessity, but I do think that the 2 offensive linemen are good players and going to continue to play. We'll probably get some guys back here soon, sooner than later.
And then I also wanted to ask, with Michigan, I'm sure you've probably seen the whole scope of their season. What have you sort of seen that's changed for them over recent weeks compared to earlier in the season?
Turnovers.
Forcing them or cutting them down?
You know, cutting them down. You know, I think that has such a significant part of every football game. But playing well defensively. You know, they had a couple games early in the season where probably they didn't play as well as they wanted to, but they've overcome that, and they're playing full throttle right now. So it'll be a challenge going down there. Good football team.
Jim said yesterday that they were on high alert for trick plays. Do you save anything extra for this game, and how much prep work is done in the summer? And in light of that, with the game being this late in the season, how relevant is some of the stuff that you did maybe in the summer?
Yeah, you know, we spend time prep for every team that we play in the summer, you know, trying to get some gist of where things are, but things tend to change relative to personnel or what they're doing. They're a little bit different this year maybe than they were last year on defense in terms of coverages and things of that nature in their blitz packages. But I think everything that you do is somewhat relevant, but then you have to take your information from the latest sources too, because things change throughout the season. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question as far as trick plays or not. Might be a couple, you know, but there always is in these type of games.
Mark, we know the history in the back here. We know the history with the big brother, little brother term being thrown around in this rivalry. Now apparently people think it's more derogatory to say little sister in this rivalry. I don't personally understand that. Do you tell your players what things to avoid when they're talking to the media during this week, knowing that everything's going to be under a microscope?
I really haven't. I really have not. I've chosen just to try and be respectful towards the rivalry and take I sort of take the high road. And I think our players have tried to do that as well. You know, I'm sure there's something going on always. But, you know, that's the nature of this game that I know a little bit too. Like I said earlier, if you don't like confrontation, best stay home. You know, you need to get yourself ready for it. It's coming.
Mark, my math's pretty bad, so bear with me here, but I think Jim's the 4th head coach from Michigan that you've seen during your tenure here. I think he's been here now the longest. In your estimation, how has maybe the program changed since he got there in 15 all the way through where we're at today?
I think he's done obviously a great job. He's won, I think, 10 games numerous times. I think we're 2-2 against him right now. Our games have been close, relatively close. The one in 16 wasn't as close. The rest of them were pretty close. Last year was close, until they hit that 80-yarder. But he's done a great job. He's recruited extremely well. Michigan's always had great players. I think they're doing a great job defensively, offensively, and he's a good football coach. Guy's a Hall of Fame football coach, whether it's the NFL or whether it's in college. So you can expect them to play well.
Yesterday, he called you a master motivator. So,
Yeah.
just kind of curious, quite a nice compliment from a rival. Do you have 2 words to describe Jim Harbaugh as a coach and how he game plans?
2 words. Intense. And I would say intense. So I think he does a great job. He's committed to, I think he's truly committed to every single play on the football field. He's going to think outside the box. You see him do different things. Offensively, you've seen that in the past, another offensive coordinator and all that stuff, but you've seen him do different things in the past that create adjustments for you, and then you're going to have to adjust within that football game. So, extremely competitive, intense. But, I think most coaches are.
Mark, I meant to ask you after the game the other day, you talked about Noah a little bit earlier. We saw him out in space a little bit, and Antoine a little bit in the middle, I guess, as far as you can go. Just what sort of is the philosophy at linebacker, especially in the middle without Joe in there right now?
Well, we wanted to take Antoine and put him in the middle there. We didn't really talk about it last week, but put him in the middle because of that position being so productive traditionally in our defense. And so we wanted to put a guy in there with leadership qualities, not that Noah doesn't have them, but who's been on the field a lot for us, played a lot of football for us, and then put Noah and allow Jez Boateng to play as well. So those guys sort of split that position. Noah can go inside, so we can do that, and put Antoine back outside, and then also Tyreek can go inside as well and can play Chase Clemens. So we've got a myriad of ways to present different linebacker situations in there as to who would be identified as the Mike linebacker.
Is that sort of the way you see it going throughout the year, the rest of the year, just being flexible, I guess, or what?
Yeah, we got to be flexible. We got to be flexible, but we need to have productive players playing, and I think that Mike has traditionally been a very productive player in our defense.
Mark, you said you talked to your freshman yesterday. Will you have an opportunity to do the same thing with your senior class? This seems like a group that's been around and had some impactful games, and their last chance against Michigan.
Yeah, we'll have that opportunity, and also the opportunity to talk to our leadership council, primarily of the senior group.
Do you have a special message for the senior class?
They'll send me the message. I listen a little bit more to them.
Got time for a couple more, Chris?
It's been a long one.
I guess, coming off that game, and you mentioned earlier that it's going to be one that's probably going to stick with you.
Yeah.
What points in particular were the ones that you maybe personally and as a coach felt most frustrated about?
Meaning the game itself?
Yeah, the game, the outcome, how it all transpired.
Well, don't get me going, because there were quite a lot of opportunities. The game could have been put away early, so we made some mistakes and prevented that from happening. And you got to give Illinois credit. We wanted to make the quarterback beat us, and he made some throws. And number 9 hooked up with some throws. But there are some technical things from a technique standpoint that needed to happen. It didn't happen, whether it's collectively as a coverage or as an individual. So those things hinge on things. So there were some calls, I think, from an officiating standpoint that were troubling, to say the least. I'll just leave it like that. And then you still have opportunities at the very end, with the goal line stand or, even driving down the field, and, it's 3rd and 4, we don't make it, make the field goal, 4th and 17, guy makes a throw, defensive back's caught on the outside as opposed to being on the inside with leverage points, middle field safety needs to play over top of that guy, he was told to. You know, he moves to the middle of the field and center rolls, which he's a step away from making the play. So there's a lot of different things like that, missed tackle on the 20. So I can keep going, probably for a half hour, but I prefer not to, try to just distance myself there. But there's a lot of things schematically, and there's some decision-making on coaching as well, and I take responsibility for that. I should have said on 2nd and 5 from the 8, but, you know, again, I look at it and say, hey, we're staying aggressive, trying to score, and, you know, ball went off a guy's shoulder pads, so makes the catch.
One more on that right here. Obviously, you guys are not where you wanted to be, but how much different would the season be, the trajectory moving forward with the win against Michigan? Does that kind of make the year at this point in time for you guys?
Every game makes the year for us right now. I think every game is significant. We've got 3 games left, guaranteed to us, so every game is very significant. This is one that, again, we need to measure up on, and then we got to let this one go. And I've always tried to say, okay, what do we do after Michigan? What do we do after a big moment? What do we do after a tough loss? How do we respond? And I think that's been a measuring stick as well for us, because I think that speaks about growth as individuals. It talks about maturity as people, and long term, that's what athletics should show you, how to compete and how to move through processes, whether you win or lose. So after this football game, we need to recollect ourselves and go to the next one, and then to the next one, and so that's what we'll do. Good.